woman. It's all fraught with high-flown drama, and it does nothing but ascend in drama and musical ecstasy, I might say. Another favourite was Esclarmonde, which was by Massenet, and Esclarmonde, again, is a fantastic opera, and I think has been on the shelf for years.
And what's your favourite language for opera?
Well, of course, Italian and French. Italian first and then French. German becomes too guttural, too many consonants, as with English. But the French and Italian flow so beautifully.
Now, Pavarotti maintains that you taught him. Is that true?
Rubbish. He was interested to see how I breathed, and he studied that a bit, but during rehearsals.
Right. How did you two meet?
Well, Richard actually heard him do an audition with our agent at one stage, and a few months later, a tenor defaulted in Miami, I guess it was, and he immediately thought that the director of the theatre said, "Who am I going to get?" And he said, "Oh, I heard a fine young Italian tenor who's just beginning to sing publicly," and he said he really could sing the role for you. And he came along and sang, and that was in Miami, and then we took him on our tour to Australia in 1965, and he was sort of the backbone tenor of that season.
Good, because for many years your partnership with Pavarotti on stage and in the recording studio was the talk of the opera world. What was exciting for you about that partnership?
Well, I mean, our voices did blend very well, and it was wonderful to be able to do these works and to have a singer who also could cope with them. But I mean, I did sing with other tenors, plenty of them. And they also could sing the music, because Pavarotti couldn't have done all of them. He was busy himself having his own career.
Is the opera world, as many people think, competitive and gossipy? I mean, that's the reputation.
Of course it is. Yeah. Is not any world that way? No, it is. But I mean, I've always admired all my other colleagues, and I think I've received great admiration and, let's say, respect from them. And one does respect them, because I mean they're doing a job and they're doing it well.
But you never found that competitive, gossipy side to the opera world difficult to cope with?
Not really. I mean, one did one's work and went home. One didn't stick around gossiping.
Was it hard work? I mean, is it hard work being an opera?
It was hard work. Of course it was hard work. Very hard work. And to sustain, to maintain the fact that someone's dubbed you La Stupenda, and to maintain that for another, I forget how many years it was, 60, 70, 80, 90, well, for about another 30-odd years.
How many hours a day did you have to practice?
Not as much as people might think. A lot can be done mentally.
Is that right?
Oh, yes. I used to sit, I have a lovely chaise longue in my sort of annex to my bedroom, and I used to sit there and have the blind up and look out at the lovely scenery and study my score sitting there.
And so how much actual practice then? In
rehearsal for an opera, you do 6 hours a day in rehearsal on the whole. But I mean, you're not singing all the time. There are, 5 other people in the opera who have to do their scenes, plus the chorus. So you're there, but you're not having to sing all of those 6 hours. I think to actually work in the house, probably Richard and I used to do about an hour and a half and have a break, maybe do another half hour, have lunch, and then do maybe an hour after lunch, or otherwise not, and I would just study the words.
And so that's enough to maintain your voice in between operas?
Of course it's enough to maintain if you're using the right technique. My dear, technique is the basis of every pursuit. If you're a sportsman, or you're a singer, or you're a swimmer, well, that comes under sport. But you have to develop the basic technique, that you know what you're doing at any given time.
Now, Dame Joan, why is it that you refuse to sing in public anymore?
For goodness sake, dear, I'm 78. I don't want to get up and sing with what I might have called a voice now. Gracious me, I retired and that was it.
So does your voice age? I mean, is that the way it works?
You don't only just use your voice; you use support from the lungs and diaphragm, and everything gets old, whether you like it or not.
Yes.
You don't only have heart problems or any sort of digestive problems or anything like that. I mean, the body gradually disintegrates, whether you like it or not. And I was not having the response with my organs, viz. Lungs, heart, etc. I had a slight heart problem anyway. But it was time to stop. I'd been there for over 40 years.
Yes. And do you sing at private functions now?
No.
Never?
No way. No.
Do you still hum around the house? Because
that I do, probably as a baritone. I don't sing in the very high register anymore, that's for sure.
What do you find yourself humming?
Probably a baritone aria or maybe even part of a concerto. I don't know. I mean, it's just whatever comes to mind, and usually something banal. I mean, might be sort of a funny pop song or anything, or an old variety song that my uncle taught me. It's just whatever comes into your head.
Is there anything that you could hum for us now? The audience will be just thrilled.
Definitely not. That is a closed book.
Now, Dame Joan, you performed 265 times at the Sydney Opera House in 23 roles over 4 decades. Now, that's an awful lot to leave behind.
It's me.
Do you miss the glitz and the glamour of it?
I can't say I don't miss it. But I mean, I had so much of the glitz and the glamour. What I miss is when I see dreadful productions on the stage that have been modernised and brought up to so-called up-to-date. Things that should be period pieces, and they do them with stark sets and modernised and bring in all sorts of actions that have nothing to do with the opera at all. That I dislike immensely. Hence, I don't go to the opera that often.
What do you make of the Baz Luhrmann operas? Have you seen any of those?
Yes, I have. I think the Bohème was quite charming, but it wasn't something that should be every Bohème in the future. Or worse, should I say. Some of the things have been terrible that they've put on the stage.
Do you believe that young opera singers and their teachers listen to what you've got to say? Are they interested in what you've got to say?
They appear to be, but whether they think any more about it once they've left my side, I can't imagine. I mean, I don't like the sort of term of master classes, for instance, because if you give master classes, you have a pupil or a budding singer for, say, 40 minutes or if you're lucky, an hour. But after they've left the studio or the hall, wherever you're doing this, do they remember what you told them, or do they put it into practice? Or can they put it into practice? You can't just tell somebody you should do this, and they go away and they know how to do it. That's not so. You have to be with them longer, many, many times.
Are there any Australian singers at the moment, currently,